Welcome to San Antonio's Influence Magazine show, the premier talk show where we introduce you to influential individuals doing significant work in the city of San Antonio and surrounding areas. Celebrate the spirit of business, leadership, and innovation. If this is your first time joining us and you'd like more information, you could find us at influencesa.com. That's influencesa.com. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and for this particular episode of the show, all future and past episodes of the show, pull up your YouTube search bar, toss in San Antonio's Influence Magazine show. When you get there, please subscribe, give us a like or a thumbs up, and hit that bell so that you don't miss any future episodes of the show. Welcome to the show, folks. I'm your host, Cedric Fisher. Today we're joined by Melody Woosley, Director of the Department of Human Services for the City of San Antonio. With over 20 years of service in the city, Melody has built a career strengthening families and communities. She lends her expertise to the guidance of multiple programs from Head Start to Senior Services. We're excited to explore her journey and the ways that she continues to impact San Antonio's collective well-being. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with Melody.
I spent 7 decades looking at the world through perfect eyes, but I never truly saw anything until the darkness came. They called it vision loss. I called it the beginning of sight.
What if losing your sight meant finally learning to see? At 81, Alora waits in darkness, remembering 7 decades of light. From a Texas farm where lightning nearly claimed her infant life, to breaking barriers as one of the first female battalion commanders in military history. From cross-country adventures with her beloved car, Lady Blue, to 12 years caring for the love of her life through terminal illness. 7 times, vision left her. 7 times, something else arrived. Lucky pennies appearing in impossible places, feathers floating where no birds fly, songs playing when no music should exist. As macular degeneration slowly steals her physical sight, Ellie discovers truths that eyes could never reveal, that love transcends death, that strength grows through surrender, that the clearest vision comes from within. Now, confined to a government facility for the blind in dystopian America, facing one final procedure, Ellie must answer the ultimate question: is this ending or beginning? Death or transcendence? Darkness or the first real light she's ever seen? Sight by Alexandria Claremont. Some journeys can only be seen with closed eyes. Available now from Cedric D and Company Publishers.
Melody, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So let's start at the beginning. Tell us where you're from and your background, and then we'll talk about the department and your job.
Sure. Well, originally I was born in Dodge City, Kansas, where my family was from. We ended up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then I moved to San Antonio about 30 years ago. So San Antonio is definitely home. I've been with the city of San Antonio for 27 years, Director of the Department of Human Services for about 11 years.
Okay. For those of us in our audience who aren't familiar with the department, just talk to us about, kind of introduce it to the viewers.
Sure. So Human Services is really the social services arm of the city. We do everything from early childhood to senior services. We have programs for youth, programs that help families with financial stability and financial empowerment. And so really those human services that help stabilize families and help them access better opportunities.
And tell us a little bit about your role within the department.
So as director of the department, I oversee multiple divisions that provide those services, and manage the day-to-day operations of the department, monitor the work of the different divisions. A lot of my time is spent on personnel. We have about 350 employees.
350, okay. Yeah.
And so, that definitely takes up a lot of time. And then, other parts of it involve really the policy aspect. What are the things we are doing versus what we should be doing, and how do we get there? Continuously trying to improve the programs of the department. And then, speaking publicly on what we do and how we interact with the rest of the community.
Okay. Can you talk about some of the more pressing issues facing San Antonio's population right now and how the city is responding?
Sure. We, because of the work we do, we really look at poverty quite a lot. And poverty is a big issue for San Antonio. It's one of the poorest cities in the state. Nationally, our poverty rate is higher than both the state of Texas and national figures. And so, our programs really are looking for ways to help people get out of poverty and into either better paying jobs or accessing benefits that help them survive and take care of their families.
Okay, you've seen a lot of success over time, or how do you kind of measure success, or how
we follow the census data, and poverty really, as a whole hasn't changed a whole lot. It's, we still have a high poverty population. It's still higher than the state of Texas, higher than the nation, but we've, when we look at the individuals and the families we serve, yes, we see progress. We see success in the programs that we provide. We are both a direct provider of services, and so we have programs that offer job training opportunities and supports and education and career opportunities. And then we also fund a lot of nonprofit agencies and other organizations that do that work in the community. So that through that spectrum of programs, we are able to make an impact. We also addressed some of the issues of domestic violence and child abuse, and older adult abuse has become a real problem. San Antonio, again, is higher than the rest of the state and higher than the nation as far as rates of violence activities. And so
older adult abuse.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
And we rank high.
We do rank high, and so that's really an area right now that we're focused on. City Council is focused on it. There's a City Council subcommittee that is working to address older adult abuse, and we're right there with them trying to help support that.
Yeah. Let's talk about immigration. So have recent changes in federal immigration policy affected the local demand for your department services, or the way that the department chooses to allocate resources?
So it's kind of interesting. Up until February of 2025, we were running a migrant resource center. So hundreds of thousands of migrants were crossing the border seeking asylum, and they would come through San Antonio on their way to cities across the country. That closed in February, and so that has been a drastic change for the department because we've been involved in that work for a number of years. Mm-hmm. It's very time consuming, and so we were able to close that down now because we don't have the number of people crossing the border, and there's not an organized way that they would get to San Antonio. But we really haven't seen a huge increase in access to services due to immigration. Some, maybe. Some of our services we're able to provide because they're either funded by general fund or the city, or through a grant that allows us to serve undocumented individuals. And then, of course, we have programs that don't allow us to serve undocumented individuals, but we haven't seen a big increase in people asking for services.
Yeah. But there are still immigrants here who...
Oh, absolutely, sure.
That you have to serve.
And I think part of it is we don't provide some of the services they may be seeking, maybe legal assistance or assistance with deportation processes. The city doesn't provide that, and so we don't see it. We also, because we do fund so many external nonprofit agencies, they may be seeing some of those requests for service. I think sometimes people tend to go to a nonprofit over a government agency.
Yeah.
For service.
Yeah. Do you feel that there's somewhat of a distrust of the government, or maybe some issue that folks would not want to come to the government first, or
I think if
city
it's
services?
It's heavily branded as a government office, there may be some fear that there's partnerships with other agencies, or yeah, sure. I think there's probably a greater comfort level with community-based organizations, especially if it's in their neighborhood, they're familiar with it. And that's really one of the reasons we do contract with so many external agencies, is they help us get into, more grassroots or neighborhood based services.
Yeah.
Help us extend our reach.
So you do a lot of collaborating with nonprofits then?
Absolutely, we really do. There's very few things that we do that don't involve partnerships with nonprofits, other government agencies like Adult Protective Services or Child Protective Services. In fact, if we have a new initiative or a new program we're being asked to implement, it's really the first thing we do is, who should we be partnering with to do this?
How does the Department of Human Services practice equity when it comes to allocating resources to these populations that all have varying needs?
Sure, and that's a great question. We, because our mission is to serve vulnerable populations, there's a scale of vulnerable populations, right? And so when we, for example, when we fund nonprofit agencies and we go through that process, we're really intentional about the geography we want to serve or certain populations that may have the greatest need. And so we make that we spell that out if we're looking to fund a partner, and we spell it out in our own programs. This is the population we're serving, and the intent is to reach those folks that need the help the most.
They have the greatest need.
Right.
Okay. So in 5+ years since the pandemic, how has the city had to adapt to its mental health challenges?
If there was a silver lining to the pandemic, it was that we received a lot of additional resources that allowed us to create programs that we had talked about but never had the resources to create, test things out, find out what would work, like the door knocking and sending folks out to find youth that had sort of fallen off the cliff. And we learned a lot from that. And so we were able to successfully transition from those COVID grants into full-time programs that we're operating today. So it's been very helpful. We have a Head Start program, and Head Start focuses a lot on behavioral health of even the youngest students, and trying to identify things early by working with families and the students, and that's really been an interesting process, because I think a lot of people assume children under 5, you don't really have that issue yet, but Head Start's a way to address it early.
Yeah, got to get them early. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Melody Woosley.
The bravest person I know is definitely my dad, 100%.
My friend Sean.
My daughter Cynthia, and she was in the United States Army.
One of the bravest things he ever did wasn't when he first enlisted, it was when he found his first support group.
Our journey has not been easy.
One of the bravest things he did was when he asked to move in with me and my mom.
I felt like I was lost, and you gave me a place to stay.
When he decided he was going to go back to school after 23 years.
It was the better part of my life that I spent in the Marine Corps. Transitioning out, it's a difficult thing.
She went on foreign soil. She went to war. But the bravest thing she did is when she asked for help.
So I really appreciate it.
Do you have any advice for young professionals who may like to make a difference in public service but feel a little discouraged by politics?
That's a good question. I would say if you're really interested in public service, local government is a great place to start. But a lot of things really start at that local level. With the federal government and state governments, a lot of times they're pushing the dollars out. Maybe they're handling big infrastructure projects. And so the kind of work that we do at Human Services is really very, very local. And so it's a great place to start and to learn. Maybe the political environment is not quite as changing as it would be at the state or federal level, and so you can kind of get your feet wet. I would also suggest to any young professional to identify a mentor, somebody that you would be interested in following in their path, or there's something that intrigues you about them, and it's good to have somebody to bounce things off of that have experience in the field and can, really just help you find perspective on challenging things that are going on, or even your next steps.
When you were a young professional, did you have a mentor, or did you find someone who...
I did, I really did. When I started with the city, I started as an intern, and I had a director that I worked right down the hall from, and I really took an interest in that work, and his career as he had come up, and so he really was really kind of the first mentor I had. And when he left the department, the next director that came in, I was assistant director at that time, and she was really instrumental in kind of helping me polish things off so that I could step into that role.
Okay. So with climate change becoming an increasingly pressing issue that disproportionately affects vulnerable populations like the unhoused, how is the city preparing to support residents should another extreme weather disaster hit like last summer?
Right. And so Homeless Services has now created, it is a separate department now. It used to be in the Department of Human Services, and we worked quite a bit with our partners at Solid Waste or at Public Works and Transportation, police department. We have partners all over the city that helped us ensure that people were safe. And so, even the stormwater group would get involved when we knew there was going to be heavy rains or flooding, to help us go out and find people who might be in the storm drains, or they had an encampment in an area that could be particularly dangerous. And so that has always been part of our plan in addressing the unhoused population, is to make sure they know what's coming and provide that information. And that's, you know, that really could be about flooding. It could be about, you know, heat-related illness and death, trying to make sure that populations, not just the unhoused, but seniors especially, are aware of what the weather is going to be looking like, or, you know, if we're going to have solid days of 100+ weather, do you have a fan, do you have air conditioning that works? Just talking to those people that we see on a daily basis about safety, really. We also, as a program that operates a number of facilities, whether it's senior centers or community centers, we work really closely with our sustainability office, our public works department, to make sure that our buildings are sustainable. So we have, in fact, I was just at a building the other day and I didn't realize that they had come in and put up covers over the parking lot for the cars with solar panels on top. And so those are the kind of things that we participate in so that we can help with that climate change issue.
I'm just going to ask, are there any other pilot programs or new initiatives that you'd like to kind of talk about that are specific to the department here?
Sure. The senior services, we have launched a couple of things. And so one is, you know, in those daily discussions with seniors, we're hearing a lot of financial concerns. You know, seniors are on a fixed income, and we hear a lot of stories about them having to choose between buying food or picking up a prescription. So we redirected what we call financial counselors to the senior centers to help the seniors. And, you know, they do presentations to big groups, and they're also available to do one-on-one counseling with older adults that just are struggling to make ends meet, or potentially, and it's part of that abuse, neglect, and fraud issue with elder adults. There's a lot of scams, especially around the holidays. We're about to launch a social media and you know, marketing campaign to inform older adults about, you know, what are those top scams that the police department sees reports of, that Adult Protective Services runs into, so that they can be aware when they pick up the phone and somebody's trying to scam them. Also, yeah. So that's really one of the other issues in senior services that you know, we've launched an effort to train city employees. So we have a lot of city employees across the city, whether it's police, fire, development services. They're trained now to recognize older abuse. So if somebody comes to their window to pay a bill or get a permit, and they see something out of place, then they can report it.
As Director of Human Services, what's been the most rewarding moment in your work? What would you?
Oh, there's...
Because I'm sure there's been a ton of them, right?
Yeah, you know, it's, you know, I'd say probably really, and maybe it was one of the bigger efforts. It was a big deal when it opened from the very beginning of developing the Haven for Hope campus. I was involved in that, from identifying the location and where we would build it, to helping to purchase the properties, and then working with the nonprofit Haven for Hope once it formed to develop the property. And
how long have they had that campus there?
So it opened in 2009, was soft opening, and then was fully open in 2010. But we had started working on it in 2006 with a task force that the mayor appointed, a task force. And so that was very rewarding. When it opened, it's been rewarding to watch the changes over time. I would say maybe, you know, when you open something that new, it just is going to change. And, 50% of it probably is completely 100% different than it was on the day it opened.
Back then, sure.
Right, and so working with a group of people that were that flexible and willing to just do what they needed to do to make it work has been great.
You seem like a purpose-driven individual. What's a day in a life like as Director of Human Services here?
Right. Well, I always start my day, it's forming in my head as I'm driving down the highway. What's the first thing I'm going to do when I get in the office? What's the list? Usually when I get into the office, there's something else waiting that I didn't have on my list. And so, I think a day in the life is being flexible. It's just knowing that it's not going to all go as planned. I set aside time to meet. I have a great team. And so, I would be lost without the folks that work for me are in this area and across the city. We have people all over the place. And so, I set aside time to be able to meet with them one-on-one and attend their meetings that they're having in their divisions or in their sections. So that's a lot of it, is really just, and also the management by walking around, just making the loop around the floor, saying hi to people, getting to know them, because there's always a lot of transition. When I see somebody and I don't think I've ever seen that person before, I try to stop and really find out what they're about and why they're here. So but then there's interaction between the city manager's office with city council members, and responding to the needs of the community. And so, we always prioritize based on really those three groups: the city council, mayor and council, city manager's office, and the community.
Very good. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back with Melody Woosley.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. My name is Ariel, and my entire life changed when I took a chance and I got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges. Oh my goodness.
So Ariel, we made this yearbook for you. It has notes from all the people that are here.
Your achievement has set an example for so many students. Most importantly, your daughter.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Melody, I moved here in 2011, and at the time we were already sort of leading the league in poverty for the city, being as large as we are, number 7 out of 10 population-wise. What type of ideas do you have about how do we knock that down? How do we reverse that situation?
Sure, I think the city has really taken a huge step towards doing that by recognizing that low educational attainment is, one of the predictors of poverty, and starting the Ready to Work program, which is a large taxpayer-funded program to help support people through getting a college degree or certificate, so that they can enter into a field that pays well and improve their income and outcomes.
Do they have to be a high school graduate to
yes,
enter
because
that program?
Right, because the idea is for them to either go into a community college or even a 4-year or a certificate program, which are generally offered through the community colleges. So there are some, I think, services that they can refer people to if they need to get their credentials up a little bit before they can enter college. But generally, yes, a high school graduate.
Yeah. So it's lack of education or an education issue, and then you mentioned health related.
Sure. Health is an indicator of so many things, and without good health, it's hard to achieve a good job, or you may be living in a zip code where the health outcomes are worse than the rest of the city. It really does have a lot of impact on a person's opportunities and their success.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Melody, we have the privilege of interviewing a lot of leaders on the show. And one thing we've all kind of concluded is that leaders are all readers. And you'll find their best favorite book typically on their nightstand. What book's on your nightstand?
The Covenant of Water right now. It's a book by Abraham Verghese.
The Covenant of Water.
The Covenant of Water. It is a big book, so it's been on my nightstand for a while.
Big as in thick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I've been trying to read the actual book, but sometimes I skip back to the Kindle just because it's not as heavy.
Yeah.
But
so is it a novel or?
It's a novel. It's about an Indian family. So my particular interest in that was I met Abraham Verghese years ago. He's a physician at a friend's house, and so I've been interested in his writing since then. And then also my son-in-law is Indian, so I've been to India a couple of times, and it's interesting to read about the history.
You may have to think about this question for a second. What's the one thing most folks don't know about you, but should?
I don't know if they should know, but a lot of folks don't know that I started my career right out of college working for a surfing magazine.
Surfing magazine?
A surfing magazine. And so I went to a couple of conferences, learned how to surf a little, not very well, and then moved on to a different job and work and left the surfing world behind.
Surfing in Kansas or San Antonio?
Oh, no. Well, the magazine I was working for was actually in Dallas, and it was focused towards the retail industry.
Okay.
But the conferences when we would go were in Florida or California.
Yeah. Okay, last question. For those interested in wanted to know more about the department, how could they get access?
Sure. So we have, we're on social media. You can type in Department of Human Services. I think it's hashtag your DHS, something like that.
Okay.
And we have a website that we put a lot of information on, especially if, we have an application people can apply for. We notify through websites, and then we just do a lot of, try to do a lot of shows like this and media stories and wherever we can talk about what we do, we go there. So.
Yeah. And when all else fails, they can just Google you.
That's exactly right. They'll find us, yeah.
Melody, thank you for sharing your story and coming on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. See you all next time.